So thank you so much for joining us tonight. For those of you who are joining us on streaming, thank you for joining us. The debate tonight is a very important one. It's a critical one to our conversation, but not only to our community, it is a critical one to our nation. And I do believe that as we have this debate tonight, we can inform our country, not just North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, Minnesota. I do believe that this debate can inform our country and that together we can be leaders for our country on what happens as it relates to this particular work in our community. This is our community. It belongs to all of us, and so we all get to have a voice. And tonight, there are two opposing voices here tonight, and what I'm going to ask you to do as our community is to listen. Listen with your whole self. Listen with your mind and your heart. Listen with what you have been through. Listen with your vision for our community and your vision for your children, for your family, your vision for yourself. Listen. And tonight we are joined by two amazing guests, and these guests will have opposing views. Voting yes to question 2 on public safety side of the issue is Minister Janae Bates, and she's the Director of Communications for Yes Minneapolis. Let's welcome her. Thank you. Voting no to question 2 on public safety side of the issue is Reverend Jerry McAfee, Senior Pastor of New Salem Baptist Church, Missionary Baptist Church, and founder of 21 Days of Peace. Let's welcome Reverend McAfee. Thank you so very much. As we begin to kick things off, just a few housekeeping things. The first thing I will do is actually read the amendment. Please listen very carefully to the reading of the amendment, and I do believe that you have also been given a copy of that. Follow along if you can. Secondly, after reading the amendment, I will read the explanation of the amendment. Following that explanation, each of the debaters will be given a question to respond as their opening statement. During those opening statements, there will be no rebuttal to those opening statements. However, with the rest of the questions that are posed, and all of these questions have been posed by you. I didn't think of them, you thought of them. I didn't put them together, our community put it together. And so I've chosen questions that you have asked so that we can address those questions. During that time, either of them can ask for a rebuttal to a question. Rebuttals are only 30 seconds. We are going to stay very, very strict with the clock, and your questions are 2 minutes after your opening statements. At about 30 seconds left, we'll give you a look, and then after that 30 seconds left, if you're still on it, I'm going to give you a Dr. Verna look, all right? Okay, and we already talked about this. Debaters, are you ready? Ready? Very, very good. Thank you. Charter Amendment number 2 on public safety appears on the ballot for response by voters. It reads as such: shall the Minneapolis City Charter be amended to remove the police department and replace it with a Department of Safety that employs a comprehensive public health approach to the delivery of functions by the Department of Safety, with those specific functions to be determined by the mayor and city council by ordinance, which will not be subject to exclusive mayoral power over its establishment, maintenance, and command, and which could include licensed police officers, parentheses, police peace officers, parentheses, police officers, I'm going to reread that. And which could include licensed peace officers, parentheses, police officers, if necessary, to fulfill its responsibilities for public safety, with the general nature of the amendments being briefly indicated in the explanatory note below, which is made part of this ballot. So that is the Charter Amendment number 2. The explanatory note reads as follows. This amendment would create a Department of Public Safety, combining public safety functions through a comprehensive public health approach to be determined by the mayor and council. The department would be led by a commissioner nominated by the mayor and appointed by the council. The police department and its chief would be removed from the city charter. The public safety department could include police officers, but the minimum funding requirement would be eliminated. Having read the Charter Amendment number 2 and the explanatory note, panelists, what is your vision? First of all, do you support this proposal? Yes or no? And why are you responding this way? Who's starting? Reverend McAfee, 2 minutes.
Might we first take 30 seconds to remember the 75 people that have been killed already, and since George Floyd, 140. I'm going to give at least 30 seconds to that. Amen. We're witnessing one of the worst movements of white supremacy I believe that the world has ever known, which is to define my reality and then force me to live up under it. No one in their right mind would suggest that the largest problem in our community is what the police have done. Much of what is happening is what we've been doing at our own hands because of the lack of proper government intervention. The same city council who helped put this garbage together can do some of the stuff that they talk about right now, but yet they're not doing it. They're doing no more than cosmetizing the corpse to camouflage the curse. You got 75 homicides, 400 and some people shot, 8,700 shots fired, and nothing has been done at all. You got young boys being ran down in the middle of the street because of a lawlessness mindset that was set and perpetrated after the murder of George Floyd, when irresponsible people did not take responsibility and hold our people down. We got stores that have been burned out that have never come back again, and the first thing that this council is talking about is getting rid of the police. This is a joke. Shame on Isaiah, shame on Black Visions Collective, shame on Take Back the Block or Reclaim the Block who ain't took a block yet.
Thank you. Reverend Bates.
People across the city of Minneapolis, of every race, income, gender, age, all desire a similar thing. They all want to be safe. And most certainly, the people of North Minneapolis, Black folks, want to be and feel safe in community. And that is both from in-community harm and from police brutality and police violence. And what we know is the current armed police-only response in Minneapolis has not worked. It didn't work in 2020. It didn't work long before then. And what the people of Minneapolis know, folks across race, region, income know, is that they deserve and can have more. They can have expanded public safety. And creating the Department of Public Safety means that you are able to have qualified professionals along with police officers like mental health professionals, violence interrupters, people who are specialized and trained in substance abuse and homeless outreach coordination. We've seen this work in piloted programs across the country and across the state, and even in places like North Minneapolis. Let's get that to scale. Let's work together with all of the tools in the toolbox, leveraging the full power of the city, meaning that the mayor, the city council members who are the direct representation of the people, that they work together to actually do these concrete solutions that we don't have to wait another 3, 4, 12, 60 years to have. That the Police Federation will not continue to declare what keeps the people of Minneapolis safe, but that the people of Minneapolis
Thank you,
do that.
Minister Bates. I appreciate that. Thank you. So what is your vision for public safety in Minneapolis, and how is that vision affected by this amendment passing and or this amendment failing? I will start with you.
Before this over, I would like for her to certainly tell me those organizations over north that's doing this stuff since I've been here. Here's what we have done because we've had no help from the city council. We formed 21 Days of Peace right in May, which working with our police department that we've been working with for quite some time, that nobody talks about, Charlie Adams, Rondo, Art Knight, the whole nine. Matter of fact, recently, there was an incident on one of the blocks. Charlie called the Mothers of Love, We Push for Peace, and Salem Inc. to come intervene like they always do to help the situation out. So we've been doing this. What's amazing is that people continue to try to do stuff for us and don't know what's going on in the first place. If you ask us, are we working with the police? We can tell you, yeah, we can tell you how. I have not met one time, not one counselor, other than our street counselors, Nona Champion and Sharif and Marlon, them that even go to the block during the gunshots. And so we got these pie in the sky kind of deals that's not realistic because shots are going on. And then let me say this whole thing is backwards from Jump Street. Before they ever put this thing on the ballot, why didn't y'all come talk to us as a people? Or y'all don't think we know what's best for us? That's what bothers me about the whole empty thing, because if this thing was a sermon, it would fail because it have no ends at all. If it is to be, it is up to us, y'all. We got to hit the block like we've been hitting the block to bring peace to our community. We already have trauma centers at Zion Baptist Church on Mondays and Wednesdays. We already have written stuff by licensed clinical psychologists headed up by Alfred Babington Johnson, but y'all would never know it because y'all never talk to us, because our voices are never valued by y'all, and you used our people to get where you want to get to, and you're perpetrating the fraud.
Thank you, Reverend McAfee. The question here, Minister Bates, is what is your vision for public safety, and how does the passing of this amendment affect that vision?
The vision for public safety means, and especially for North Minneapolis, but all across the city, that the people of Minneapolis actually feel safe. That when they need help, when crisis happens, that they feel safe enough to pick up the phone and dial 911 and know that the right size response is going to come. That they will be trained and that they will be disciplined in doing that. And sometimes that will be a mental health specialist. Sometimes that will be a police officer. Sometimes it'll be a combination. But the people of Minneapolis deserve that. The reality is that where there is no vision, the people perish. There has to be an actual vision, one that is grounded in the realities of the lived experience of Black folks. You are right, Reverend McAfee. You have been doing this work a long time. I honor that. I honor you and all of our elders and the amazing work that 21 Days of Peace, that Mother's Love, that Black Lives Streets and Mad Dad has been doing, and working with police officers to make that happen. It should continue on, and it should be sustained, and it should have the full power of the city to sustain it, so that it is not just 21 Days of Peace, but 21 centuries. That is what the people of Minneapolis deserve. And so this amendment change was grounded in being about community. The reality is that the way it's created, those first 30 days is really just about having a department commissioner. But after that, the entire process is about community. It is about city council members and the people and the residents having a say about what keeps them safe and using data and community experience to properly staff and budget for that.
Rebuttal.
Go ahead, Reverend McAfee. You have 30 seconds.
As effective as the Lord has allowed us to be, the city of Minneapolis ain't gave us a dime of 21 days apiece. They give a mother's love sparingly a dime. The problem with this whole thing is, again, it is straight politics. And the very ones who lock up all the money from helping the organizations like the ones that we do and make it work, because they don't like us, they don't give us a quarter. And so we turn around, and that's why I can't trust these people. Lastly, talk to us. Ain't nobody talking to us. We got folk talking for us.
Let me just remind our audience that we are not in church and we're not talking to the movies. So I'm going to ask you to just hold it in. This is difficult, I know it, but you can do this thing. Because I want to make sure that we really listen in and listen deeply. Thank you. How does this amendment...
was there a rebuttal that I was...
Certainly, go ahead.
Okay. So, sir, we actually have been talking to the people of Minneapolis. We have had literally thousands of conversations just in North Minneapolis alone. And I really have to say, sir, I know that you've been doing this work, again, for a long time with a lot of folks, but you are not the sole voice of Minneapolis. And the reality is that there are many people over north who can disagree with you and still have a real lived Black experience and want better for themselves and their community.
And I just want to make sure, Minister Bates, that this does not turn into a personal attack of any kind.
Not
that
at
is
all.
not why we are here.
No, ma'am, not at
Not
all.
received.
So I
Not
just
at
want
all.
to make sure.
I didn't receive
at
it
all.
that
I
way.
want to make sure. We're going to
at
move
all.
on. We're going to move on to the next question. And audience, I'm going to ask you to chill out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leave it alone, y'all.
Teacher style, chill out. Let's make this happen. Listen in. Listen in. How does this amendment change the police force so that police can respond to actual purposeful crime of all kinds, but have a different response or response team that can directly address activity caused by a variety of issues? And how does this amendment change how the police force responds to our community? And I'm going to start with Reverend
Thank
McAfee. You have 2 minutes.
First off, it says could include, if necessary. That's too abstract. We don't know if it's going to be there or not. It's not written in stone that it's going to be that. It says could include. That's my issue with it. If you wasn't trying to hide something, why not be exact in your language? It's just like a prayer. How would God even answer this? Coulda, if necessary, when it's supposed to be explicit. This is y'all, is actually sad, because my beloved sister is right. I certainly don't speak for everybody, but I bet you I do a whole lot for over most of the folk around here. Make no mistake about that. From burying them to feeding them the whole nine. And I still say, y'all, let me read this again, because y'all got to hear it. It speaks for itself. If it and which could include, that don't mean it will include. And can we trust the people who put this document together when they are the very ones who start hollering, defund the police in the first place, took over $8 million or more from the budget of the police department, got rid of PAL and the other things that was there? How do we trust it? Now, I got 38 seconds. I double dog dare you to go research everybody that's been killed on the block. And one of the many things that you hear a lot of them young boys saying is called the police. And there's a lot of G's in here right now, but I bet you y'all didn't go talk to them. Y'all wouldn't talk to some people who y'all knew y'all was going to talk to, because everybody who on the block know that they need the police. Only y'all, the folk y'all chose by plying them with nasty barbecue, did you get the thing in the first place. So we don't know based off this whether that would actually be a police department. Could, and if necessary. And if 75 murders ain't necessary, you tell me what is.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Minister Bates, 2 minutes.
Did you want to repeat the question?
How does this amendment change the police force and how they respond to the community as it relates to all kinds of crime and activity?
This makes it possible for the police force to have the kind of force that they actually want and what the community has wanted. For many, many, many years, it has been said time and time again that police officers are being called into situations they are not trained or equipped to handle, like things like mental health crisis, like homeless outreach, like substance abuse and sexual violence. And the reality is that we can actually have a fully funded and fully staffed Department of Public Safety that responds in the right size response to the people of Minneapolis. That also means that we can have intervention and prevention around issues of gun violence and violence in community, which is something that police are not equipped to do, and they will tell you that that is not what they do. We can actually make sure that I also just really want to name that police will be a part of the city of Minneapolis. There is a state mandate that overrides anything that the city sets up that requires police officers to respond to a whole series of situations. The thing that is also important to note is that the city of Minneapolis is the only city that has this requirement number in their city constitution. No other city in the state has that. And that alone has guaranteed the Police Federation a certain number of resources and staffing and this police-only model that has not served the people of Minneapolis. Most certainly, I know that Reverend McAfee would agree that this is not a police model that has helped the city. Most certainly has not helped Northsiders. And we can finally have the people, the residents of Minneapolis, take a step forward to do something about that.
Thank you. Once again, audience, I am going to ask you to hold your applause and listen. Is there a rebuttal to that?
Oh, most definite, most
Thank
definite.
you.
There is no question, dear sister, that we share. My struggle is, right now you have everything in place that we need for change. Rondo is in place, mayor's in place. The only thing that's out of place is the city council. That's why we can't trust them. And this vague, abstract thing is going to it can actually get rid of Rondo. Ain't nothing in here that say Rondo going to be around. And so I'm saying, after 30 years of being around here, now is the right time. Now is not the time to back up and do something different.
Do you have a response?
I do. Well, it is actually a matter of fact that the current police department is the only department in the entire city charter that has sole, unilateral, complete control by the mayor. The city council has no power currently with the police department, which means that your direct representation has no power and no ability to say what should and shouldn't keep you safe. And we've seen that manifested many times over when people don't know what their police department's doing.
Thank you, Minister Bates.
Rebuttal.
I'm going to move on to the next question because I think the next question actually connects into this, and I want to make sure that we cover quite a bit of the conversation. This amendment has been said to be a dangerous experiment. And how will the passage of this amendment make our city safer for all residents, and or how will it obstruct it? And I will begin with you.
It will obstruct it again. This thing is absolutely, positively too vague. You have everything that's moving in the right direction right now. And beloved sister, you're so right. Etched in my mind is Tyrell Nelson. I don't know if some of y'all don't remember him, but that's where I've been before George Floyd. Shot in the back with double-out buck, which 32, because they said he was pointing a gun. I'm well schooled from what the police have done to us. And that's why I'm sharing with y'all right now. We are finally at a place where we can do something. Matter of fact, if the city council really want to do something worthwhile right now, why don't you turn around and give the Civilian Review Authority subpoena power and go through all of those different complaints that they got against the police and get them off their desk? But because they didn't do it years ago, they castrated it. History is important, y'all, when you got to know you've been toyed with. This thing ain't going to do nothing but keep us back. The one thing we can do with the mayor, we can vote the mayor out. So yeah, we got a voice. We will always have a voice, but we just have to use it. I say again, if we are for real, anyone that's for real will be very, very static in their definitions on what they want. And when you read this thing, I don't get it. Even to put it in front of us as a people, and there's no conclusions and no proven plans. Matter of fact, service started in New Salem at 11 on Sunday. Send me anybody that can give me these case studies on what comprehensive public health policing look like, because I don't know what it looked like other than what we do on the block. We don't know what it will do. We can't even really answer the questions because I don't know where it's ever been done. And I don't want to be another test case. I did 3 funerals a week or so ago. Not one person was 30 years old. All right? That's what I see. So while some of y'all run around there, you don't see what I see.
Thank you, Reverend McAfee. 2 minutes, Minister Bates.
Sorry.
How does the passage of this amendment make our city safer for all of our residents, and or how will it obstruct it?
So most certainly this will make the city safer, because it means that a comprehensive public health approach means that every single member of the community is involved, that they are seen as a full human, that they have dignity and agency and honor. That's what it means, sir. And you know what that means, because that's the kind of work that you do with 21 Days of Peace. You get to see the full humanity of the people that you are talking to every single day. We're asking that our public safety infrastructure do the same thing. That is all that this is. That it really is about ensuring that human beings can be them full selves. And it is leaning into the idea that you can actually have that you don't have to settle for what has only been given time and time again for years and years and years. Those deaths are awful and horrific and horrible, and they were not prevented by police, even though currently the police department is fully funded. What they're having an issue doing is getting officers in there and trained. And the reality is the Minneapolis Police Department has been completely closed-mouthed about what their process is around hiring, how many applicants they've received, what does their training look like, and they don't have to tell you anything. They don't have to, because they have no accountability. They have no accountability to the police, to the people of Minneapolis. They have no accountability to you. And it's unfortunate that you have to have a personal relationship with Chief Arredondo or one of the officers to feel like you're safe and protected. Nobody should have to depend on that kind of relationship. The people of Minneapolis deserve to have servants, public servants, not a mafia that says that you need to pay us more and we'll maybe protect you.
Rebuttal.
Thank you. Minister
Rebuttal.
Bates, rebuttal. Go ahead, Reverend McAfee.
The reason why we formed the Civilian Review Authority is because we knew that internal affairs was not going to protect our interests. In this very place, one of the first places I met Keith Ellison and them, I think we was protesting the percussion bomb of Smalley and Weiss when they died. What I'm still trying to figure out of all that you mentioned, the city council can do something about that now, but they haven't. And so the first thing that they want to do is change everything when they won't do what they can, and we supposed to trust it?
Thank you, Reverend McAfee. Do you have a rebuttal, Ms.
I
Bates?
do. I think it's also important for the people in this room to know that there is a statewide preemption of having a civilian board with teeth. And so what Reverend McAfee is referencing is this idea that the city council should be pleading to the state legislature to change that. And I need all of you folks to understand, I have been working at the state legislature for 5 years to get them to just say that the KKK should not have any part of the police, and they have not agreed on that.
Thank you, Minister Bates. There's a lot going on here, and we're just going to keep pressing through, and I'm going to keep reminding you as an audience to listen. Listen. Thank you so much. Yes, without applause. Thank you. Debaters, what problems or issues with policing and public safety do you view as most important? What problems or issues with policing and public safety do you view as most important? And how does the support of this amendment help this? And/or how does the denial of this amendment help this? And I will start with Reverend McAfee.
This amendment don't help my concerns at all because it is way too abstract and vague. The things that we have been working on with Dr. Bethel and them, with police mediation that we're working on already, the things that we've been doing with Rondo and Charlie them already have been answering some of our concerns. I mean, I wish you was here, beloved sister, years ago when you want to talk about what the police, you know Spike?
No, sir.
You need to have a conversation with Spike Moss so you can get an even broader context of what we go through, from how they would take Native American brothers, throw them in the trunk in the wintertime, put water on them, pee them, call our women bees and hoes and everything else. I don't need nobody to tell me what Minneapolis Police Department would do. Trust me, I'm well skilled on that. But this thing don't answer nothing. And I say again that if you all would have had this conversation, and while I may not speak for all Minneapolitans, I bet you there's a whole lot of them I do. And it's interesting that they wouldn't bring you to me in the first place. That's real interesting how you and I just first met and you know about me. That's suspect, beloved sister. So we are in agreement. I'm saying to you all, based off what I know, Al is out there, my partner. They done jumped on Al several times. All right, from DWBs, driving while black. We're very skilled in all of that. But I need you all to hear the gunshots that the switches is on, that's turning them to fully automatic on what our people are doing to each other, concern me much more than what the police doing, because I'm of the opinion a strong black man to make sure everybody is checked right if you come wrong. Y'all hear what I'm saying? And that's where we need to be, where we ain't looking at nobody. Here it is, I'm through. I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door, I get it myself.
Thank you. Minister Bates.
The biggest issue with the police department currently has been the Police Federation, which is the big blue elephant that folks don't talk about. And the huge reason why a bunch of the amazing and wonderful reforms that Chief Arradondo has created and come up with have no real teeth. They have been and continue to be the block for the people of Minneapolis to be safe. The reality is this charter change is really just to put the power back into the hands of the people. The Police Federation put this block in place in 1961, before civil rights. Why in the world is the city of Minneapolis functioning with a police department that you admit has been heinous and not treated people with humanity? Why in the world is the city of Minneapolis still functioning on something that was started in 1961? And it has no leverage, no ability to have flexibility around staffing, around budgeting, that meets the needs of 2021. And that's what the people of Minneapolis need, and that's what they deserve. And recognizing that the issues of violence in community and violence by policing it is the exact same coin. It's the exact same coin. It is an issue of proximity to blackness and proximity to poverty. That has been the reality for Black folks for decades, if not centuries. And Black communities have experienced this immense amount of violence and this immense amount of violence from police for far too long. By voting yes on 2, it is the city of Minneapolis saying that they are ready to take a step forward, to embrace the urgency that has always been, and to take the opportunity to say we're not going to spend another year talking about this, another year
Thank you,
admiring.
Mr. Bates.
Rebuttal.
Thank you.
Rebuttal.
Yes, Reverend McAfee.
If the city council was for real, at the point that Ryback removed the police from federal mediation, what should have happened was the city should have been placed under receivership, which could have helped break the backs of the union. And there are 3 types of receivership. None of the city council even come up with that. Matter of fact, Lisa and I got to arguing about that all the time, because when Rondo got in, I said to her, y'all, Rondo's good, but I don't trust the union. This is how you do it. They want to tie everything up and they ain't research nothing. It's dangerous when you don't know.
Thank you, Reverend McAfee. Is there a rebuttal?
I mean, the rebuttal is that the city council has not had any control over the police department since 1961.
They cut budgets.
They have not. They have not. That's just a reality. They can cut a budget all they want, but they have no control over policy, and all they do is take whatever the city council said they were going to cut, which they don't, and what they do instead is they just funnel it back into the department. It's happened time and time again. There are many, many proof points of that.
Okay, thank you, Minister Bates. And I'm going to ask that our audience, because you are my community and I love you, I really do. But I'm going to make sure that you respect everyone on this stage, including me. Well, that's how we're going to do it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like you come into a place of called money, right? And funding. So let's go to that issue. Do we need this amendment to pass in order to fund a public health approach to public safety that includes investments in public safety beyond policing? And with this one, I'm actually going to start with you, Minister Bates, and then Reverend McAfee, I'll come to you. Do we need this amendment to pass in order to fund a public health approach?
Yes. If you want it to be fully comprehensive and integrated with police officers, yes. Because currently what the city has been trying to do is piecemeal that together. So you have the Office of Violence Prevention in the health department. You have, again, these amazing resources and the awesome community work that you all have been doing, but it has been put together with shoestring budgets. It hasn't been sustainable, and so constantly folks have to continue to petition the city to be able to get another grant to make it another year. That is ridiculous. The work you all have done has been incredible, and that is actually the work that's been proven to decrease violence in cities. And so why not make that sustainable? That can be sustained through a Department of Public Safety. The other thing is that, again, this block in the city charter that absolutely has to be changed in order for this to happen, that block makes all of these things possible. The reason that this work has been having to happen for many, many decades, and it has not been fully funded, and it has been where you're just hoping and praying you got enough volunteers to show up, it's because we actually don't have the full support of the city. By voting yes on question 2, you can really finally start to have the full force of the city and the residents of North Minneapolis, the residents who have been leading in the work to reduce gun violence, the residents who have been the hardest impacted by police brutality and police violence, they get to lead with the full support. It doesn't have to be North Side against everybody. It gets to be North Side is leading. They are the ones who have made it possible that George Floyd's death is not in vain. They are the ones who have possible that those 3 babies' deaths are not in vain. That the fact that people can actually live and they can thrive and not just survive in the city. That is possible. It's possible. And this saying yes is leaning into that.
Thank you, Minister Bates. Reverend McAfee, do we need this amendment to pass in order to fund a public health approach to public safety?
No, we don't. Here's what we can do, because we're doing, and thank you so much. North Minneapolis is already leading. We ain't coming on. We already leading. We just can't get some of them folk in the city council to follow our lead. That's why we don't trust them. Maybe if Black Visions Collective and Reclaim the Block and all them other groups would give up some of that money that they got off of the death of George Floyd, that we could already fund these initiatives that you speak of. Right now, let me say again, Alfred Babington Johnson is right there. Learn Self-Management, which was put together by a collection of 7 or 8 different licensed African-American psychiatrists and psychologists ready to go into the schools, houses, and every place else. Dr. Asia King, Brian Heron. We're already doing stuff over at Zion already, as much as people want. And then just while we're really talking about it, maybe we ought to talk about how crime victims cut the money out for counseling for our people years ago when we was getting too many black folk in counseling. Holler back at your boy if you please. See, the thing is, you don't, at New Salem, we will never, ever send forth anything about trying to get a grant if we ain't already doing it. By that I mean, it would be nice if they was already doing it. They ain't come close to doing it. Even with volunteer organizations. Ask Philippe and them, they know what we do. Ask them, are they giving us any money for it? No. So if you want us to think they're gonna be for real, if we, Babington, they ain't giving them no money. We done all this on our own. So we already leading it, but Isaiah and them or the rest of them ain't followers. Matter of fact, they came up with a mental health thing with Joy Marsh Stevens and them, over $500,000 or more than that. Where is it? We don't know. So that, again, y'all asking us to trust people who have proven themselves to be untrustworthy. We don't need money to do it. We can do it now. Marlon, if you in here, boy, when we hit the block, do I tell you to go out there and take care of that business? Nona, when I ask you to go take care of that psychiatry business, she does it. Time up.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend McAfee. Minister Bates, do you have a rebuttal?
The reality is, sir, that the people of Minneapolis deserve to have their work sustained. You named a real thing that you haven't gotten that funding, and you should. You should. The safest cities across America are resourced cities, that they actually have the things that they need, that people have livable wages, that people have ample health care, that they have stable housing, and that they have the right response.
Thank you, Minister Bates. Let's go deeper into the amendment. The amendment includes language that calls out peace officers and parentheses, police officers. If the amendment passes, what does peace officers or police officers mean, and how will this be implemented? And I'm going to start with Reverend McAfee.
We don't know. Because I teach the members of New Salem, always define the term. Always know, and matter of fact, every time you got a text, you got a context. So if you're going to really get into the truth of the text, you got to get the full context of the text. And a text without a context is a con. This is a con. Because we know not the definition of nothing. You can take the rest of my time.
Minister Bates, we'll reset the clock to 2 minutes. Thank you. Go ahead.
So peace officer is the legal term for police officers, which is why it was listed as both within the ballot question. The reality is that police officers will absolutely be a part of the city, and we know this again because of the state mandate that police must respond to a whole series of situations and things within the city. The other thing that is important to note is that many, many, many cities in the state actually don't have a police department in their city charter or their city constitution. Many cities function that way. Minneapolis is one of the few that does have it, and as I named earlier, it's also the only city that has this minimum mandate within the city charter that actually should happen through an ordinance process where the people of Minneapolis, where the actual data of 911 calls is analyzed and that they rightly staff the department to match the safety needs of the city. That is the way that you ensure that people actually have what they need, that you don't depend on something that was decades ago, 60 years ago, to say this is what the city needs today. And that is why it is important to name explicitly that police and peace officers can be a part of this department, so that you can be a right steward of your resources, so that we're deploying them when we need them, and that sometimes we won't, that sometimes folks just want to have a wellness check to make sure someone's okay, and that the right person should be deployed. And there are many cities that have examples of how this has worked.
Rebuttal.
Go ahead, Reverend McAfee.
We're already doing that. They just never asked us. Don't take out of this document if necessary. How does one in 2021, with all of the crime that's going on, would put something in it if necessary? Again, you wouldn't even preach this, because ain't nothing you can get out of it to preach. It's empty. If necessary, no. It should have been straight and to the point, and they should have talked to people before they did it. They did not do it.
Is there a rebuttal?
There is. So if necessary is actually how all things should function when you're being a good steward of your resources. You use them when they're necessary. And again, because the department, the police department itself, does not have to exist within the city charter to exist as an entity. There's actually a city ordinance, because of good governance, that exists and has existed for a very long time, even longer than before the Police Federation put this block into the city charter. And so that means that the police department can continue to function and continue to patrol and provide response until there can be a smooth and complete and full comprehensive integration.
Thank you. I'm going to push this a little bit because there seems to be two messages happening here, and I just want our audience to be clear about what you're actually saying. Mm-hmm. And the message seems to be, do we have police officers with this new amendment, or don't we have police officers with this new amendment? And how does that get implemented into everyday functioning in our community? I'll start with you, Reverend McAfee.
Based off what I read, I say again, maybe I should read it. It's empty. It says it could include. Well, if you didn't want could and it was really that, just say it would include. And you would take out if necessary. I mean, those words change the whole structure of this sentence. Because those of us who are waking up to the rat-a-tat-tat of the guns, we ain't got time for no if and no could. We need something right now. Our folk dying at alarming rates. They getting shot at a lot, and that ain't no could. That's facts. And so to give us something, again, empty and not anything. Matter of fact, I forget that commercial, but it's almost like, where's the beef? This is a plant-based sandwich here, and it ain't got no nutritional value. Why not just take that out? Matter of fact, this thing, if they was for real, it should have been so simple that my grandson, Luke Courtney, who I think is here, should be able to read it and understand it. It takes a mind like yours to figure out what in the world they talking about, because I don't know what they talking about on this thing.
Are you finished?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, thank you. You still had a few seconds left.
I know
so I
it,
just
but
want to make sure.
Don't need all that time.
Make sure.
It's empty.
Minister Bates, there seems to be a contradiction here of the document and then some of what the audience is hearing. Does the amendment include peace police officers? And if so, how will that get implemented?
Thank you for asking. Yes, absolutely, definitively, demonstrably, yes. The Department of Public Safety and the City of Minneapolis will have police officers. And the reason that that is true, again, is because of the state mandate, but also, just to say a little bit more about the process, What will happen when the people of Minneapolis vote yes in November is that the mayor and the city council have 30 days to nominate and appoint a interim department commissioner. That's what they do within those 30 days. After that, they will have a community-driven and data process in order to determine what other qualified professionals need to be a part of that department. What kind of calls are coming in to 911, and how do we make sure that the people of Minneapolis and their safety is centered? And that can move at the pace of the city. While that happens, that ordinance that I referenced before, that is the establishing ordinance for the police department, will remain intact. And that can remain intact as long as necessary in order to ensure that there is patrol, that there is a response from police officers, and finally, the people of Minneapolis will be able to have some leverage with the Police Federation to be able to the reality is that the police department has been functioning on an expired contract for the last 2 years because the Police Federation hasn't had to negotiate about things like transparency, accountability, training, anything. Finally put the power of public safety back into the hands of the people of Minneapolis. That is what this is really about. That's what this charter change is for.
Rebuttal.
Thank you. Audience, I am going to remind you one more time, just one more time, because I love you. That's why. You are my people, and you are my community, and I know your children.
Rebuttal.
You hear what I'm saying to you? Thank you so much. Reverend McAfee, go ahead, 30 seconds.
One, the Federation is already at the table for mediation that they never was at before. They're there already. Two, based off what I'm reading, and as abstract as this is, and maybe you can help us with this, and Sister Moderator, if she can answer it, could the city council and these people basically get rid of the police department and then just argue with the state over the efficacies of it?
That is a question that's being posed to you. Would you like to take it?
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
Yes. So, no, the city council cannot just get rid of the police. And I'd argue the city council does not want to get rid of the police. The reality is that they want what you want. They want what everyone in this room wants. They want people to be safe. And being safe means safe from police violence and from community violence, and finally getting to focus on intervention and prevention. That is what this is about.
Thank you, Minister Bates. I'm going to push in on that a little bit. And Reverend McAfee, you've brought up some of the data on the death of black men in our community. If people vote no to this amendment, what guarantee will we have that black men won't continue to die in the streets at the hands of police officers? If people vote yes to this amendment, what guarantee will we have that our black men won't continue to die in the streets at the hands of police officers? Reverend McAfee, would you like to begin?
Again, it's a lopsided question because, again, I do more funerals on what we doing to each other than what the police doing 20 times over. So I think the course in which we're going, as we add accountability, Chauvin was created by the city council and the mayor. How in the hell do you go 18 times, you got 18 charges, and you get off on all of them? That show you ain't no system of accountability there. If I'll guarantee you it wouldn't have happened if Rondo would have been there. Rondo fired, for the first time in 30-some years that I've been around, Rondo fired them officers on the spot. And everybody got a message, wrong chief. That is the thing that we want to send. Now, the video stuff that y'all just seen a little while ago, what them dirty rascals did, ain't nobody in here surprised by it, but I bet you now that it got out, I bet you I got enough confidence in Rondo that he gonna deal with it. And I just don't have no confidence in this city council that you tell me care so much about me when they've done nothing about out-of-home placement. Quality education is gone. They don't know what in the hell going on with housing. On North Minneapolis, the average cost of a house is $243,000. The jobs ain't right, and this council ain't worked on none of that, but they gonna help me be safe.
Minister Bates. If people vote yes to this, what guarantee will we have? Go ahead.
So the reality is that no one has any guarantees about people continuing to be safe. Right. What is guaranteed by voting yes is that you're taking a step toward it, that you're actually making a decision to do something and to say that we're going to get out of this cycle of inaction or repeating to do the same thing that we've been doing for the past 60 years. The reality about that, the videotape that has now been shown to the public, is that that happened over a year ago, which means that the mayor and Chief Arredondo probably knew about it a year ago, and that it was not given to the public, and that those officers, that sergeant, the lieutenant who lied, who beat Jaleel Stallings, a St. Paul man, broke his eye socket, were willing to let him go to prison for over a decade with their lie, that was going to just happen, and that we should just be okay, or we should be grateful that a newspaper had to sue to be able to get body camera image. That should not be. It just should not be, and that does not have to be the course that Minneapolis stays on. That if you have full city representation, that means that all of these things actually get to be leveraged to the public far sooner, which then people can actually demand that folks be really reprimanded and fired and disciplined in the ways that they should be.
Rebuttal.
Yes, sir.
I agree. So why has the city council not given that civilian review authority subpoena power to take care of all of those cases that they've had for years? If folk care about us, I don't get it. I don't understand it. But they have been impotent and inactive. And so they are complicit in what happens to us as a people. And that's part of the issue now. We've been crying loud for years, and the very people who keep saying, trust us, love us, have been sticking us in our back. So why have they not? They can do something about that right now, and they haven't. And until they move, you'll continue to see that mess.
They actually cannot do that right now. And what they can do, again, is petition the state legislature in order for that to happen. That is what would need to take place. That is a state legislature issue. And yes, they most certainly could continue to fight with the legislature to make that happen in the same ways that many people in this room, I think, have been fighting to make that happen. But the reality is that that is not something the city council themselves can do.
The state legislature didn't put the civilian review authority together. We did. And it was accepted.
You're right, but they took the teeth from it.
Who?
Thank you.
The state legislature.
The city council took the teeth from it.
So let's keep on pressing that issue of safety then. And we're going to start with the question of what realistic goals can we really set to reduce crime and make our communities safer?
Yes.
And does this amendment, saying no to this amendment, help or obstruct these goals? Does saying yes to this amendment help or obstruct these goals? And Reverend McAfee, I will begin with you. What realistic goals can be set to help reduce crime and make our communities safer?
Let me be real clear, because voting yes or no ain't gonna affect that at all. We as a people got to look within ourselves. Charity starts at home and then spread abroad. We are severely traumatized people, and hurt people hurt people. The things that if you look at poverty, all of that is connected to violence. And the needle has not moved for us as a people. In spite of whoever the mayor was or whoever the city council have been, the needle has not changed for us. It's not by accident that they putting all these bike trails over north. They ain't put them in for Pookie and Ray Ray. You can believe that. And so what we got to do as a people, and let me be clear, that's my message, is to us as a people. When we change, they'll change. But as long as we continue to give people our authority and let them operate and tell us what we ought to do, we'll forever be behind the 8 ball. We spend enough money to be right around the 11th or 17th richest nation, but yet we never let the dollar change hands with us. We got to do what we used to do. We got to dig down deep, rebuild our families, and when we rebuild our families, y'all, we will be stronger like we used to be. We cannot rely on no government to do that for us. I'm telling you, we got to do it. One of the things we've been talking to at Babington, as well as another thing of 21 Days of Peace, is one family at a time. We're asking every family, start meeting with your family all over again. Find out what their economic situation is like. Find out what their education is like. Find out what their mental health is like. And then access all of the different things from the city, county, and state to rebuild your family. Because when black folks strong, when you stand up, can't nobody stand on your back. No police union or anybody else, whether it's yes or no. We got to do it as a people because it's the right thing to do.
Thank you, Reverend McAfee. Minister Bates.
I agree that people should absolutely be galvanizing themselves, their
And
families.
Minister Bates, I'm just going to
Yes.
restate the question so we
Yes.
can stick with the question versus a response, because we're
Okay.
not rebutting yet. What realistic goals can be set to help reduce crime and make our community safer? And does the passage saying yes to this amendment help or obstruct this?
Yes, it will absolutely help it. And the reason voting yes absolutely helps it is because it does the things that you named. That it is really about galvanizing people to lift up themselves, lift up one another, lift up their community. Where we do disagree is where you said that it wouldn't matter if you vote yes or no. Drastically disagree with that, because the fact is that this only made it on the ballot because people galvanized one another. They lifted up one another. 22,000 people signed that petition to say that they were ready for something new, ready for something different, and ready to stop accepting what has just been handed over. And the reality is that both the beautiful marriage of protest, of organizing in communities, of talking to one another, and of civic engagement is what makes it so that the government is not a handful of people in a city hall or a White House or a Capitol. It is every single person in here. They are the folks who have power to decide what will keep them safe. They are the ones who get to check a box and say, I want to do something tomorrow. I want to do something for my community, for my neighborhood, for my neighbor today. And they can also check a box that says, you know what, let's slow walk change a little bit longer. Let's hope that maybe if we keep doing what we've been doing for the past 60 years, that we'll have something different.
Rebuttal.
Thank you. Minister Bates, you still have 27 seconds.
No,
You're good. Thank you very much.
My time.
Rebuttal. Y'all, this is no more than Black Visions Collective, Isaiah, Reclaim the Block, and others who was funded by Black Visions Collective to go hire a bunch of people to run out there on the block, give away free barbecue, and talk about the police. They never told these people what this thing was really going to say. So they was just fooling our people. You come into the one of the most poverty-stricken areas in Minnesota and giving away free food, talking about the police. I was out there when they did it, and when I checked the young girl, she had to run away. It's a gimmick.
Thank you, Reverend McAfee. I'm going to push into this even further.
Wait, may I have a rebuttal?
Certainly.
So it is a mischaracterization to only name 3 organizations a part of the 70 that Yes for Minneapolis makes up. It also includes labor unions. It also includes the Minneapolis Federation of Teachers. It also includes the ACLU. It includes a whole series of people who have been dedicated to this work for a very long time. And so I really want to stress that this has really been about people who live in community, who care about the community.
Thank you, Minister Bates. And once again, audience, we just have a few minutes left here, and I want to make sure that we end peacefully. We are here to listen so that we can make good decisions for ourselves and for our family and for our community. That's important to me.
Yeah, amen.
And I know it's important to you. How would you balance over-policing with the recent gun violence in North Minneapolis? And how does this amendment saying yes or no to it impact that? Reverend McAfee, I'll begin with you.
Let me say to you all again, the police react. They don't prevent. That's what we have to do. And if we could get the help from them 70 organizations that she speak of, which is probably 35 organizations and just got different names, and would enter into real dialogue with us, maybe we can make something happen. Because we keep, I guarantee you, 12th and Knox right down the street, the action is there. Down there on Penn, and it's there. We keep thinking that we need somebody else to do it. We got to do it, y'all. And we've been doing the work. The tragedy has been, out of all them organizations that she talked about, they don't support what we're trying to do. They sit up there and siphon off all that money, and rather than helping the people out who really getting it done, think about this. When was the last time you seen Black Visions Collective on the corner for any one of them kids got killed? When was the last time you seen Isaiah? When was the last time you seen Reclaiming the Block? When was the last time you seen the ACLU? When was the last time you seen the Teachers Federation? Hell, they can't even get our kids taught right. And they talking about public safety. They ought to have their tails locked up in a room trying to make sure that our kids are learning. And they off into our business and ain't talking to us at all. And as quiet as it's kept, most of them organizations that you mentioned is white ran, white owned, period.
Reverend McAfee, you still have a few seconds left. You're good?
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Thank you. We'll reset the clock for Minister Bates.
Yes, so as Reverend McAfee mentioned, policing doesn't do prevention or intervention, and that community members do. And the Department of Public Safety makes it possible to get to do that. It makes it possible to expand public safety in the city of Minneapolis so that you can sustain that kind of work and have the mental health professionals and the homeless coordinators and the violence interrupters all in one department working together to ensure that people are safe. The other thing that I have to note is that yes, this came in through with community. And it is an erasure of the Black people who are leading a lot of the work in a lot of those 70 organizations. It is an erasing of their work and their toil and the things that they care about. There are a bunch of leaders in this room who live in North Minneapolis who are Black folks, and they deserve to be safe just like everyone else, and they are excited to vote yes. They have been calling folks, they have been door knocking, they have been talking to their neighbors to ensure that people get to be safe. That is what everyone in this room wants, and that is something that everyone in this room can have. By voting yes on 2, you get to make that happen for yourself, for your neighbor, for your community member. You get to say that someone I love needs my yes, that someone that I care about needs to ensure that they have the kind of violence interrupters, that they have the interventions, that they have the prevention, that if they're going through something in a pandemic where mental health crisis has skyrocketed, that they can pick up the phone and the right size response show up that will de-escalate the situation, that will bring resolve, that will treat them like a whole human being. Everyone in this room deserves that. Everyone deserves that. Even you, Mr. Flowers. I love you anyway.
Rebuttal.
Thank you, Minister Bates.
Rebuttal.
A rebuttal from
Y'all,
Reverend
please,
McAfee.
please respect my sister.
Absolutely.
Don't do that to her. Don't do that. The sad reality is we have been doing the work, and they ain't gave us a dime. Everything we've organized, we put it together and had to ask people to help us because the city of Minneapolis won't, and we are effective. We got the data, and they still won't help us. And for us to put that in their hands, it's more about ego than anything else, which is an acronym for edging God out. That's my concern with this thing, and it is not right because we doing the work.
Do you have a rebuttal?
I do. Again, because city council members don't have the power over the police department currently to do any policy work, but they have actually been working with the community to try to do other things. Like this city council has raised the wage to $15 in the city of Minneapolis, never before done. This council also put in tenant protections that were never done before. They instilled sick and safe time policies. It's the reality is that they have been working.
Thank you,
Rebuttal.
Mr. Bates. We are actually in 5 minutes left, and so what I'm going to ask is for both of you to compose yourselves and to think about a closing statement. And in that closing statement, the big question is this. If this amendment does not pass, what do you propose as the plan for community safety and public safety? If this amendment does pass, what do you propose as the plan for community safety and public safety? And we will not rebut these remarks, as these will be your closing remarks. What I'm asking you for is, what is your plan? And I am going to begin with you, Minister Bates.
Thank you. So if this passes, it will be finally a way for the people of Minneapolis to raise the standard of public safety in the city, that they will be able to have an expanded Department of Public Safety. The police officers will get to work alongside qualified professionals, that when folks experience crisis, they can pick up a phone and trust that the right size response is going to show up. That they will finally have some levels and layers of accountability and transparency with the police department, that now policy with the Department of Public Safety would be able to happen in the open, not behind closed doors, not siloed off from the people of Minneapolis, that you can finally start to have a real negotiation with the Minneapolis Police Federation about what it looks like to be able to talk about disciplinary measures, to be able to talk about training, to be able to finally institute a lot of the beautiful and wonderful reforms that have had no teeth over the last 60 years. That is the kind of department that you can have with the Department of Public Safety. That is what can finally start to happen. It can be a new day where people across race and region and income can really be safe and truly feel safe in their neighborhoods. The reality is that if the people of Minneapolis vote no, then we have what we have. That we have an armed police-only model in the city of Minneapolis, and that the people will continue to cobble together ways to keep each other safe, but it won't be sustainable. This is how you stop the bleeding and create something good, by voting yes.
Thank you, Minister Bates. Reverend McAfee.
Thank you. To vote no allows us the opportunity and the privilege to continue to do what we've been doing and that we've been doing effectively for years. And now we finally got a police chief that has a conscience and is in order and in lockstep with the community. And prayerfully, we will vote 98% of the city council out so we can get city council people in who know how, know the heart of its people. Because the minute you start getting something finally right, we want to go and mess it up. And there's no need for us to mess it up right now. It's time for us to continue to move. We continue to ramp up what we're doing. We expand the mother's love. We expand staff stuff, His Works United. We expand police mediation. We expand 21 days of peace to start moving into our families. We galvanize the churches and make sure that we are upholding each and every one of us and making sure that everybody is all right. Everybody in here do want safety, beloved sister, but most of the people that I talk to and kick it with, most of them, they ain't concerned about the police, but they're concerned about Shorty and Ray Ray with them Glocks with them switches on them. And so we've got to make sure that we're getting the word out. My brothers out from We Push for Peace and Trade, now they all know exactly what I'm talking about. That's what we must do. We must move with much more intention. We must get within the confines of our families and have them real good conversations. And when them young boys and young girls come home with them illegal guns, we got to have an entity, y'all, to where we can get them guns back. Amen. But then also what what we need. We need to make sure that we got county attorneys and law enforcement officials that when these white folk coming in here selling these guns in our community, that they are being tried and convicted worse than what we are. And that's because a strong community can define our reality, and we keep marching forward. Rondo is the man that we need. 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 Charlie Adams is the man that we need. And I guarantee you, if you vote no, you will see the change that my beloved sisters speak of.
Thank you so much. Let's take this moment to really thank in a community north side way both of our debaters, Reverend McAfee, Minister Bates. Let's also take a moment to thank all of the organizers, specifically our leader, Senator Champion, the League of Women Voters, NAACP, our Principal Maury, and all of the volunteers who helped to make this a great night. Thank you all. Thank you for coming.